Alrighty, welcome to this video where we're going to be speaking about how PCOS causes irregular periods and irregular menstrual cycles in PCOS, because that symptom is a very, very common symptom. And as we go through this, I'll explain how irregular menstrual cycles is the cause of other symptoms you may be experiencing with PCOS, and then exactly what to do if you do want to regulate your period, because most women do. And that's the thing too, regulating your menstrual cycle isn't just about falling pregnant and fertility. Your menstrual cycle is a marker of your overall health. So remember that your menstrual cycle is how you make estrogen and progesterone. Those two hormones are very important in terms of mood, sleep quality, energy levels, weight gain or weight loss. So it's not just a fertility thing here with the menstrual cycle, but to understand how PCOS causes irregular periods, you must understand the menstrual cycle at first. So let's quickly talk about what does a regular menstrual cycle look like, and then we can speak about how PCOS affects this, and then what you can do about it. So as you can see here, we've got the endometrial cycle here. So this is inside the uterus. As you can see, the start of your cycle is when you shed. That's a bleed or menses, this first start of your cycle. And then as you can see here, through the rest of your cycle, your endometrium is building up, your uterine lining is building up again for you to shed it in your next period. Here, we've got our HPO cycle. That simply stands for hypothalamus pituitary ovaries. Your hypothalamus and pituitary are just parts of your brain. So it just says brain ovaries. Your menstrual cycle is controlled by your brain, but it obviously relies on your ovaries. So that's just your brain speaking to your ovaries. And here up the top, we have our follicular development. So what is actually happening with your follicle into ovulation and then coming into being the corpus luteum. So as we can see here, and as I just mentioned, your menstrual cycle is controlled by your brain. And at the start of your cycle, can you see what's high here? There's a hormone here, a pituitary hormone called follicle stimulating hormone. Now this hormone simply stimulates your follicles into growth, into maturation, and eventually one follicle will become dominant into ovulation. So follicle stimulating hormone is high early in your cycle, and that matures these follicles in your ovaries. And as you can see, as this follicle here and these follicles, because multiple follicles will start maturing early on, one will become dominant, the rest will be reabsorbed back into your ovaries. But as you see, as this is maturing, levels of E2, estrogen, starts to rise. So your estrogen is actually being produced by these maturing follicles. That's where your estrogen is coming from. So follicle stimulating hormone is maturing these follicles. These follicles are releasing more and more estrogen. And once estrogen reaches a certain level in the brain, your brain picks up on that and then sends down a surge of another hormone called LH, luteinizing hormone. And it's that surge of luteinizing hormone that causes your most mature follicle to rupture, release its egg, and that's what ovulation is. After ovulation, LH levels once again fall off, estrogen levels fall off, but then we can see this hormone here in purple. P doesn't stand for purple, it stands for progesterone. So as you can see here, progesterone in the first 2 weeks are very, very low, but then it rises. And that's because once your follicle releases its egg for ovulation, it now turns into something called the corpus luteum. And it's that corpus luteum that is your source of progesterone. So as you can see here, progesterone is high. Your luteal phase should only be 2 weeks long. That corpus luteum starts to get reabsorbed. As it gets smaller, progesterone levels fall away, estrogen levels fall away, and that's what triggers your next period or menses or bleed. So as you can see here with the menstrual cycle, and this is maybe something you want to watch a couple times, something is always leading to something else, right? FSH is causing your follicles to mature. These maturing follicles are releasing estrogen. When estrogen levels reach a certain point, your brain sends down luteinizing hormone. That triggers ovulation. That follicle now becomes the corpus luteum, which releases progesterone. As the corpus luteum starts to be reabsorbed, progesterone levels fall away and the cycle starts again. It's this delicate balance of hormones, 2 hormones from your brain, FSH and LH, and 2 ovarian hormones, estrogen and progesterone. Those 4 hormones are in delicate balance to hopefully provide you with a healthy menstrual cycle. But what happens in PCOS? How does PCOS affect this? Well, remember, I'm always talking about, number one, there will always be an underlying driver of your PCOS. And this is something you're going to have to speak with your doctor about and work with your doctor on uncovering, because simply being diagnosed with PCOS is not enough. You know, I made a post earlier today asking on the public Facebook page, did your doctor explain your results to you? And nearly everyone said, no, my doctor just told me I had PCOS and sent me on my way. That is not good enough. You have to ask your doctor, explain what all this means, explain what these test results are. I need to know what is causing my PCOS, because being diagnosed with PCOS is wonderful. It's the first step, but it's simply saying you have this condition. It's not explaining why you have this condition. I want to know why, because until you understand the underlying drivers, you can't create yourself a solution. So number one, what's the underlying driver? We've spoken about them before. Is it insulin resistance? Is it inflammation? Is it adrenal fatigue? Is it coming off birth control? There will be an underlying driver you need to work with your doctor at. And now number two, your underlying driver will be driving high levels of androgens, whether that's free testosterone, total testosterone, DHEAS, or androstenedione. You will have a high androgen level, and that triggers high early LH. So remember here, LH should only be early just before ovulation. But what we see in PCOS is LH is early and high, meaning these follicles cannot mature. These follicles stop about here. And that's why if you go to your doctor and get an ultrasound, they may find multiple cysts on your ovaries, polycystic ovaries. They are just unmatured follicles being stopped by this early release of LH. There goes your menstrual cycle, because as I mentioned before, everything leads into something else. High LH means these follicles won't mature. If those follicles won't mature, estrogen levels will reach a certain point, but it won't go high enough. You won't have this surge of LH, which means there'll be no ovulation, which means there'll be no corpus luteum, which means there'll be no progesterone. So if we look back here, it's this follicular arrest, which I was speaking about before. These follicles being blocked early. That's also the cause of polycystic ovaries. That means you won't ovulate. If you don't ovulate, that's what's causing these fertility issues. And if you don't ovulate, there will be no progesterone, and low progesterone levels is associated with early pregnancy loss, so miscarriages, low sex drive, low libido, thyroid issues, and also weight gain. So you can see now how important the menstrual cycle is, because having an irregular menstrual cycle is leading to polycystic ovaries, fertility issues, miscarriages, and early pregnancy loss, low libido, thyroid issues, weight gain, or common symptoms we're seeing in PCOS. And just quickly, reminder that birth control does not regulate your period. Birth control shuts down your period. It puts you into a chemically induced state of menopause. So birth control is not the answer here. But in saying that, if birth control is helping you, then you know what's best for your body, right? But having a look at this, you can see now how it's this delicate balance of hormones. We know that high insulin drives high LH. So if you're one of the 7 out of 10 women with insulin resistant PCOS, there's going to be high insulin driving this high LH. So therefore, can you see now where the common advice for PCOS is just to lose weight. Losing weight may help, but I know so many women who have tried to lose weight or who have lost weight and it hasn't fixed her PCOS at all, because nowhere here am I talking about losing weight directly helps this, right? I just said, if you're one of the 7 out of 10 women with insulin resistant PCOS, it will be high insulin driving this high LH early in your cycle. So therefore, if it's insulin resistance, then your main outcome will be to improve insulin sensitivity. Losing weight will most likely be a result of that, but your focus isn't on losing weight. Your focus is on improving insulin sensitivity. It is a big difference. And this is what I'm talking about. Once you know the underlying driver of your PCOS, then you can specifically focus on improving that. Because if you improve that, all of these flow-on effects disappear. You can regulate your menstrual cycle. If you want to fall pregnant, that's wonderful. But even if you don't want to fall pregnant, it's still important and beneficial to have a regular menstrual cycle. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about PCOS, the menstrual cycle, fertility, or anything at all, let me know in the comments section below. Or if you want to keep it private, send me a direct message. And as always, I will see you on our next video.